Hey climbers, Brent here. Are you ready to write your best songs ever? Are you ready to take that next step in your songwriting journey? Well, I want to help you with that. Listening to the C.L.I.M.B podcast is a great way to get started on your songwriting journey and to learn the basics about the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting. But eventually, you're probably going to need the personal touch. You're probably going to need some one-on-one feedback, some advice, and some help reaching your songwriting goals. And that's what I want to help do for you. I want to help you write your best songs ever. And I want to help you learn the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting, of how to turn pro in your mind and in your behavior before you ever turn pro on paper. Before you ever have the awards to hang on the wall, I want to give you the mindsets and the skills to earn that stuff. And so we'll dive into your questions and I'll give you honest answers. And I can help repair your song if it's already written but has a couple bugs and has some opportunities to get better. Or we can help prepare your song if you have an idea, a notion, a title. We can do your own private song title challenge if you want. If you want to get ready for a co-write, if you have a meeting coming up and you want to get your stuff locked down where it's the best it can be, I'm happy to help you do that as well. You can see my calendar, get all the details, and actually book a session at songwritingpro.com/coaching. That is songwritingpro.com/coaching. Now, if you're still not sure if a coaching session with me is the right thing for you, let's listen to what this climber had to say about their session.
Having been around musicians and songwriters a lot of my life, I always wondered why some made it and others didn't. And it never really made sense. Like there was a glass ceiling or magic formula, or you had to live in Nashville to even have a shot. But after coaching with Brent Baxter, I've come to understand that it's just like anything else in life worth having. It takes an education, knowing people, practice, and then more education and relationships. I didn't really have a clue how much knowledge and intention that it took until I was in the room with him, a man that made his living and fed his family with the knowledge that he has. There's a lot of naturally talented songwriters out there, but at some point, even the greats have to learn new skills and new ropes to stay relevant. I've had so many roadblocks and awe moments released from Brent that I've lost count. His simple observations have solved many of my complex problems, and he's made suggestions that have changed my entire direction on certain songs and pulled me up higher. Sometimes I cringe at the money I've spent on demos. If I had half the money I had spent on demos and put it toward my education, I'd have a lot less worthless demos. He's explained things to me in 5 minutes that really could have made all the difference that entire time.
Song Title Challenge.
All right, welcome to another Song Title Challenge. This is where the question is, climbers, how would you write this one? We have listeners of the podcast send in their song titles to info@daredevilproduction.com. Production is singular. There is no S, daredevilproduction.com. Put Song Title Challenge in the subject line. We put them in the right folder, and then I spring them live to Brent on the air. And we mimic what happens in a professional write during the first 15 minutes of that session, where we take the title and we're trying to figure out 4 or 5 different conceptual ways to write the lyrics. So we just make sure we've got the cleverest, coolest way that we can make that happen. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's it. This is for edutainment. We want to inspire you, educate you, motivate you, challenge you to dig more deeply into your titles. It's not a co-write, so anything we throw out, feel free to use or not use. All we ask is an invite to the number one party, right?
That's right. All right. Are you ready?
Never, but let's do it. I got nowhere else to go. I can't go anywhere else.
All right. So this is from Martin Vipond.
Martin. All right.
The song title is A Desperate Sunrise. A Desperate Sunrise.
All right. Well, Martin, thanks for sending that in. That's an interesting title. It makes me want to know what it's about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got to figure that out. I don't get to just hit play. So that's a good place to start, Martin. And all you climbers listening, it's a title that makes you want to know what it's about. It does that to me. Like if I saw that on somebody's record, I'd be like, ooh, what's that about? So let's figure out what that can be about. So I like that there's a visual aspect to it, sunrise. And then there's the question mark to it, which is the desperate. Why is it a desperate sunrise? Are we fighting vampires? Okay, it's a desperate sunrise. Oh boy, this is a thinker right here. Let's see here. So, let's start narrowing down our options, trying to think of it in a way of, a relationship song, a desperate sunrise. Is a sunrise desperate, or am I desperate for the sunrise? It's a desperate sunrise. Like coming out of a long, hard night, it's let's see. I'm desperate, or it sounds like the sunrise is desperate. So why is the sunrise desperate? Or I guess it's just a desperate time as the sun rises. You could probably say that. I'm wondering, like, there's some sort of story where as the sun's coming up, it's a desperate time. Like I'm trying to get her back. Maybe she left me, and it's a long, hard night followed by a desperate sunrise. She still hadn't come back. Maybe she left and she still hadn't come back. All I get after a long, lonely night is a desperate sunrise.
Well, what could you juxtapose it against? Like, could you say it was, something like a promising night turned into a desperate sunrise?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a long, lonely night, and a desperate sunrise. Like it's just getting worse as the sun's coming up. Or it could be you could do kind of like opposites. It was maybe the hangovers, hit. And so it was a whiskey night and a desperate sunrise. It was a whiskey midnight and a desperate sunrise.
Ooh, whiskey midnight and a desperate sunrise.
Like,
that's
crap,
cool.
I'm starting to sober up and she still ain't here and it still hurts,
Yeah.
It could be something like that. A desperate sunrise. Boy, that's so interesting. And of course it's kind of thinking about the times that we're living in right now, like looking for some hope, almost desperate for a sunrise, for that first light of dawn, that dark, you think of the darkest before the dawn.
Yeah. That's good.
You kind of wonder about, we could all use a desperate sunrise. Like we're so desperate for things to kind of get better and to improve and for the night to break,
Yeah.
Could be a thing. Let's see here. Martin, you have sent us a challenging one because it feels heavy. It feels like, it's a definitely emotional thing, a desperate sunrise.
What about a question like, is it a new day or a desperate sunrise? Like tomorrow's another day. My mom used to tell me all the time. Is tomorrow another day or another desperate sunrise?
Yeah, is it like a hopeful morning or a desperate sunrise? Is it hope or desperation? Is it? Yeah.
Oh, you could do like a mindset song, right? Like a hope song. Like, you've got to make it a great day kind of a vibe with the lyrics. And so it's not a desperate sunrise or it will be a desperate sunrise, right?
Yeah. Or, if you look at it from a more spiritual connotation is, God's got his schedule. He's sovereign. He's looking over all this stuff. So this could be more of a CCM or Southern Gospel or some sort of religious thing, or even depending on how you frame it, more of a secular spiritual thing. But basically, like, God has a plan. No matter how dark the night, he's never made a desperate sunrise. Like, he's never had to call an audible. He's never been worried. He's never been on his back foot having to adjust and recalibrate and adapt to overcome. No, he's never made a desperate sunrise. The sun always comes up when it's supposed to. He's got a plan. He is in charge. He is on his throne.
Oh, that's interesting.
No matter how dark the night, God never made a desperate sunrise. Like, I better make the sun come. This is getting bad. No, man, he's got it. So in that sense, I think that could be pretty cool, especially for the times we're living in, but always. I mean, there's always wars and rumors of wars, right? There's always stuff going on. So that could be cool if you take it from that kind of hopeful peace angle. The world keeps spinning,
Oh, okay. So wait, you could twist that angle a little bit and say you could be talking about a relationship, right? Like with her, I've never had a desperate sunrise, and maybe it could be like, I'm a real bad boy, but I might be a real bad boy, but baby, I'm a real good man. Like I used to be wild. I used to be crazy, blah this and blah that. But now with her, I've never had a desperate sunrise. Since I met you, I never had a desperate sunrise. Since I looked into her eyes, I never had a desperate sunrise.
I had a desperate sunrise. So meaning, I've had desperation at other times. I've had, and why is it not? Because part of it is you want that title to hit and for people to know what's, to understand it, which is a lot of setup. And I keep thinking too of like Tequila Sunrise, the Great Eagles song. It's another Tequila Sunrise. I don't know, is there, not to play off that song, but just, for some context going, okay, because there's a situation there and, it's a desperate sunrise. It's if you follow them through the day almost of being without this girl, it's a desperate sunrise and in a lonely afternoon kind of thing. It's a whiskey midnight followed by another desperate sunrise. Like, it's just the cyclical kind of nature of her being gone could be a thing. I even think of, you think of a child that's been lost. There's so much human trafficking in the world, or just a child being lost or abducted or whatever. You're talking about a desperate sunrise. You looked all night and the sun's coming up. It's like the longer they're gone, the less chance you're going to find them. Desperate sunrise. Why sunrise? That's one thing you have to ask is why sunrise, right? Why tag it that other than desperation at any other time of the day? You got to figure out. Otherwise, it's going to lose a lot of power if it could just as well be noon or something else, That's why I like no matter how dark the night, God never made a desperate sunrise. That's why I like that, because you got the metaphor of that. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You could do something with, I remember, I think, reading an interview, or maybe it was a live show I saw, and he was explaining it. Travis Meadows, tells the story that he was like a straight up drunk for like 6 or 7 years. And he says, and when I mean that, like, I was drunk, he's like, I never had a hangover. right? Yeah. Like, he was always loaded. Like, he was never coming out of it, which is for 6 years.
Never not drunk.
Yeah, never not drunk. So that was like pretty crazy. So if you had something like that, it could be something about like alcohol addiction or something where, now that you kicked it, you don't have another desperate sunrise, because that would make you feel desperate when your tongue's stuck to the pillow and your head is pounding and you've got a massive hangover.
Yeah, and you're desperate for another drink, right, to cure it.
Yeah, like, Slash talks about that too, like in his wild days, when before he would go to bed, he would take like a massive Jack and Coke. He would fill a big, tall water glass full of ice and pour the Jack and Coke in there so that as soon as he woke up, because he would have the shakes, he could pound it right away, like right in the morning. I mean, insane.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could go down that road if you wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, what a terrible situation that is. So, yeah, that's cool, Johnny. That could be something about, this ain't a desperation morning. Last night, it wasn't a whiskey night. And it's not a desperation morning. Talking about coming out of that stuff. Like, wow, I can see the sunrise. It's just, I'm used to watching a desperate sunrise. This is like a beautiful, peaceful one. That's different, So we got the coming out like in recovery thing. Like, I've never seen, like, this is my first time in a long time seeing a beautiful sunrise. I'm used to a desperate sunrise, Maybe that's where you start off. I'm used to a desperate sunrise. That'd be a heck of a first line. I'm used to a desperate sunrise where, hands are shaking.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you could name the song Desperate Sunrise, and that's the opening line. Yeah. That's a pretty awesome opening line. And then the chorus could be anything.
Yeah, you could talk about the positive, or you just got to come back around to, it's a desperate sunrise. And so, get my kids out of here. Okay, they're home. They're like, Dad? No, the sign says closed. Anyway, so that'd be a cool angle to take. And also, I wonder if that could work I was thinking of a love angle too. Like, this ain't a desperate sunrise kiss. Almost like finding somebody at the end of the night. The last call, desperate. And whiskey midnight, followed by the last call, desperation. Whatever, kind of hookup kind of thing. But this ain't a desperate sunrise kiss. Like,
right, what did you say? What was the line in the song you wrote with Neil Schuyler? Last first kiss.
Oh, I've been that desperate phone call unreturned, or something like that. I've been the desperate phone call
that was
unreturned.
I've been the suitcase left by the curb. I've been the desperate phone call unreturned.
Yeah. So this could be something like that. But like, I found you, and so like, I'm not desperate for somebody because I got you. Kind of thing. Like, and you can even use, I'm used to a desperate sunrise. Or this ain't a desperate sunrise kiss. This ain't a desperate sunrise whatever.
Yeah, like a way to say that it's not a one-nighter.
It's not a one-nighter. It's
like a hookup.
Yeah, and you're not coming from a place of need, kind of like of desperation, of lonely. So that could be kind of cool to make it a love thing. Like, maybe it's like, there's so many people, with their whiskey midnights and their lonely, whatever, last call kind of desperation, without using the same word, but that ain't been me for a while. This ain't a desperate sunrise kiss. That kind of thing of saying, no, I'm not that person anymore, or thank God that's not us. We have each other. We're in a committed relationship, and it's good. It's solid. So it could be that as well. Let's see here. So I think there's some good stuff in here, Martin.
Yeah.
Let's see. A desperate sunrise. Desperate sunrise. Is there something else that sunrise could mean other than the physical morning sunrise? What is the name of a boat? The Desperate Sunrise.
Yeah, I like that.
You just write a story, and that's for some reason, it's somehow the name of a boat. A Desperate Sunrise. What else could sunrise mean? Like, are there drinks called sunrise? What else could it be?
I mean, there's a tequila sunrise,
right?
Yeah, if it was the name of something like a boat or I guess you wouldn't name your car, but
yeah.
It could be a horse.
Oh, yes. Desperate Sunrise.
Sounds like a racehorse name.
Desperate Sunrise. Go to the outside. Here comes Heartache.
Yeah, that's right. Desperate Sunrise by 5 lengths. Yeah.
Which would be kind of interesting, though, actually, if that is, he's betting on a horse and he's as desperate as the horse is, as the horse is named. There's that, which would be interesting, right? He's betting on a horse named Desperate Sunrise, because otherwise tomorrow he's going to lose his house. He's got to win.
What if you had like 3 different verses that were like 3 different, completely different stories, or 2 different stories that tie up Desperate Sunrise? Like, one of them is like maybe the addiction in the morning thing. You desperately need a drink. The other one is, it's a horse, the name of a horse, a gambling addiction or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And I mean, that would make it harder in today's market to be like a big commercial thing, because simple is better, not as much story. But, things come and go and they shift, and depends on what your goals are, Martin. But that could be pretty interesting too. Or it's, the same guy who used to have the Desperate Sunrise where, he'd set up the Jack and Coke the night before or whatever. And then she finally left him over it or whatever. And that was a Desperate Sunrise. The first morning she was gone, but now he's gotten clean and he's getting onto his boat, a Desperate Sunrise or whatever, finding peace kind of thing. Make it all one kind of story.
Oh, yeah,
which would be cool.
That's good. Dude, that's awesome. Like, so you maybe you start off the song like, I'm used to Desperate Sunrise, and you talk about all that, and then at the end, that's like the last line. And, I got on my boat, named it Desperate Sunrise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it could be a tattoo. It could be a tattoo.
Yeah.
What if it's a tattoo that you see like on a girl's arm or something, like on the inside of her arm? Mm-hmm. And so it's the conversation starter. Mm-hmm. It's how you met her. And that was the conversation starter. Like, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had to ask what that tattoo means on your arm. Like I'm over here looking at your eyes, and then I see Desperate Sunrise. Like, what? And then she tells the story or something.
Yeah.
Maybe she tells the story. She was addicted, and that's what she tattooed on herself to like remember. The way kind of Russell Brand has like those hash marks on his neck. I mean, bad choice to put a tattoo, but each one of those is a year that he's sober.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It could be something really kind of cool and profound like that.
Mm-hmm. I like something about her eyes. In her eyes, I see a Desperate Sunrise, like something you see in her eyes where it's not a literal sunrise. And I think, too, about the tequila sunrise, if there's a way to reference, like, it's a tequila sunrise, it's a desperate sunrise, it's a drink of desperation because he's trying to forget something or he's trying to whatever. It's a desperate sunrise. Could be cool. A lot of ways to go.
Yeah.
A lot of ways to go, Martin. Well, I don't know. I know we're almost at 20 minutes, so that's what we try to keep these to. So maybe a good thing to wrap up. But hopefully we've given you some good ideas and some ways to go. And that's the thing about this. At first, you're like, I don't know what it is. But take 20 minutes and just either find a buddy that you can, bounce stuff off of, like Johnny and I are. Co-writers are great for that. Or by yourself, just put the pen down and keep moving it, doing different ideas. Do your own personal song title challenge. Hey, we all are inside right now, so now's a good time to woodshed, and hopefully you'll come up with some stuff that you're like, I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought of that. Just looking at it, so it's worth diving into it before you're trying to actually write the song. This is like pre-writing. If you pick up the guitar and now you're trying to figure out the chords at the same time you're figuring out the lyrics and the rhyme scheme and you don't even know what it's about yet, like for my money, that's not how I like to go about it. Everyone has their own process, and whatever works for you works, but if you can take some time to pre-write and kind of go, oh, that's what I want to attack, then I think you can dive in with more confidence, probably get a better result in your writing. So there we go. Hopefully helpful.
There you go. So, if somebody wants to work on this with you privately, they can.
Yes. Now is a great time because I have coaching hours available and I'm happy to get away from my family. Just kidding. I love my family. Thankfully, they're all healthy. Also, I do private coaching, private consulting. We can do song feedbacks. We can do private song title challenges. I can help you prepare your song. I can help you repair your song. I also answer your questions about the art, the craft, the business of songwriting. Happy to do all that at songwritingpro.com/coaching. And right now, we have a discount going on that I'll hand out to you. It's a 33% discount. So for an hour of coaching, it saves you $50. So no small discount, but hey, we're all trying to stay busy, and I want to help you use this time to be as productive as possible. I want to encourage you to do that. The discount code is COVID-19 sucks. COVID-19 sucks, because it does, and I want to help you save some money and help you grow in your songwriting at the same time. So you can get all the details and see my calendar and book a session at songwritingpro.com/coaching, songwritingpro.com/coaching. And remember, COVID-19 sucks. There we go.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another killer song title challenge. Once again, send your song titles into info@daredevilproduction.com and put song title challenge in the subject line so they get in the right folder, and we'll tackle them on the air. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.
Song Title Challenge.